Hello everyone, Fearfire here, and I haven't made a video in a while, so I'm going to be answering some questions and also just giving an update on what I'm doing, because I do plan on starting to make more videos again. I have time now, and I don't know, the main reason I haven't been doing them as often in the past few months is just because my last video was the Scion guide, and it wasn't so much of a guide as it was a commentary, and it received really mixed reviews. I wasn't discouraged from it, but it just was, I shouldn't have been calling it a guide, I guess, because, I don't know, I prefer doing commentary and stuff like that, rather than, specific guides. Even if it's just commentary for a specific champion, at least it's not like a guide, because I figure if you want, to learn what runes, masteries, spells, stuff like that, item builds, you could just look up a guide. There's lots of good websites out there. There's lots of guides, lots of good guides out there. If you're going to be watching a video, you're probably going to want more of a commentary aspect to the guide so that you could learn what you should be doing with the champion or with whatever. And I think that's a lot more helpful, a lot more constructive. So I'm going to be doing more of the commentary type videos instead of just guides. And so yeah, I just wanted to make this to update you guys, and if you have replays or anything like that that you want me to watch or make a video for, you can just post them in the comments or PM me, or I don't know, post them on Reddit or something like that, because I check all those sites all the time, and if I see a replay or someone asking for help, then I'll just go ahead and make a video for it so that I have some more material to cover. So in the background here, I'll just be showing a recent Scion game. It was pretty low elo, only around 1500, because I'm on I'm on pretty ridiculous tilt right now. Like, my entire match history was pretty much ranked defeats. So it's a pretty dumb game. You'll see lots of funny stuff happen. Well, it's not really dumb. I mean, it's still decent gameplay, but I do make a couple big mistakes. So I don't know how much we'll be able to see, but you'll probably see one of the times that I get caught when I fail a flash over a wall. So it's really bad. I mean, it's not that bad. It's one death, whatever. But it put them back in the game. So whatever. This will be somewhat entertaining for you guys to watch as I just answer some questions. Alright, so Frank6281S asked me 2 months ago, sorry it took so long to get back to you in a video, how do you counter Kassadin? So Kassadin is an interesting mage. He relies on having at least a decent early game if he wants to be a force to be reckoned with later on, especially in team fights. If he gets shut down early game, he simply won't be able to deal enough damage to allow him to bounce around the team fight and pick off the squishier members of the opposing team. On the other side, if he does get fed early game, he'll be really strong. He might even seem overpowered just because he could deal so much damage and roam really well that he could snowball games, especially in solo queue or unorganized play. So you need to be able to shut him down pre-level 6 early game. So there's a few ways you could do this. The first is by pushing. So you could choose Zillion and push against him and even harass him in between his silences. Or like Galio, who has high magic resist and can deal with his harass and at the same time push lanes, because Kassadin doesn't really have a way to counter push lanes. You could push the lane into his tower, and that way Kassadin, first of all, can't roam, but secondly will also miss CS. The other way to deal with this lane is simply by focusing on winning trades and beating him, and you do this by playing someone with high attack damage, high physical ranged, or melee even, just high physical harass. So people like Gangplank or Pantheon or Talon will be able to win trades against Kassadin, because Kassadin's passive reduces the damage he takes from magic, magic abilities, not physical damage sources. So if you pick any of those characters, especially Talon, because he could also push lanes, you're just simply going to win the lane. You're going to come out ahead in every trade, and you'll be able to shut him down early game, which is exactly what you want to do. The final way that I could think of to deal with this lane is by choosing someone with shields, like Scion, who could shield his harass and push the lane. Scion can even roam, just as well, if not better, than Kassadin once he has mobility boots. I know from experience that Scion has no problems against the Kassadin lane. Another example would be Udyr, because his shield can just shield Kassadin's harass, and his bear stance, of course, can stun him, which is really strong against Kassadin later. because if kassadin gets stunned, especially in a team fight, he's just going to melt because he relies on being highly mobile. That's where his sort of survivability comes from. Alright, next, XEstarionX asks me, who counters Mordekaiser top lane? So Mordekaiser is again, I guess, an interesting champion because he pushes the lane. All his abilities are AoE, and he will inevitably push the lane, and that's also where he gets his survivability from, is from building up his shield by pushing the lane. So this leaves him very susceptible to ganks, especially if he's in top lane, because it's a much longer distance to run back to your tower. So early game, before he has level 2 boots or has had a chance to go back and ward, you should really try to get your jungler to gank the lane 1 or 2 times. If I ever jungle and there's a Mordekaiser on the enemy team, I'm definitely going to gank his lane at least once, hopefully twice, before he has a chance to go back. I mean, after you kill him, then he's going to have gone back and had a ward probably. But before that, hopefully you get a kill on him early, and this will also really stop him from snowballing, because if he does get free farmed, you know, he's allowed to farm as much as he can, then he could be a very big threat later because of all his AoE damage. So people in lane that beat him, my personal favorite is Swain, just because of his great ranged harass. Yorick also because of his sustained and again his harass. The common knowledge kind of general counter to Mordekaiser is Cassiopeia, because again ranged harass, but also because she has good wave clearing ability also, so she could keep Mordekaiser from pushing the lane into her tower. Other than that, I don't really have much to say about what counters Mordekaiser. There aren't many people who counter him, but his general playstyle, again, ganks are the best way to beat him. Also, his ultimate can be removed by Quicksilver Sash, not by cleanse though. So if you're an AD carry going up against a Mordekaiser, you might want to invest in a QSS as one of your earlier items, you know, your second or third item. Maybe after Infinity Edge, go ahead and pick up a QSS. Alright, and then next, yoewme asks, what's counter jungling? So, I guess this is a good thing to explain, especially when I was newer to the game. I didn't really understand, I guess, what counter jungling was or what the point of it was. So, well, hopefully you understand jungling is, you know, killing the monsters in your forest instead of going to a lane and just farming the minions there. And so counter jungling is basically when your jungler also goes into the enemy jungle and kills their minions as well. And if the enemy has a jungler, which they almost always do, this will hurt them as much as it helps you. So it's kind of like a double whammy. It'll deny them farm and experience, especially if you steal like one of their buffs. That could really harm the enemy team. So lots of times, especially in higher level play, you'll see them ward the enemy buffs so that they know when they're spawning, they know when they're being taken, so that the jungler and whoever's lane is closest can go ahead and try to steal that buff. Other than that, I don't have much to say. Not all junglers can counter jungle efficiently. You have to be able to have an escape, basically, because if you get caught in the enemy jungle, which is bound to happen if they're warding, you need to be able to get out. So if you choose someone like Nautilus, I mean, I think you've been able to see in this clip, he's gone into the enemy jungle a couple times and almost died, basically. So you have to choose someone who's fast, like Udyr, or even Nocturne, I mean, can get out. But you can't do it with a slow jungler, not a Moo, no one like that, you know, is very susceptible to being killed, basically, if caught. They need to have built-in escape mechanisms, and they need to be fast junglers. And then we have DIY 1996 asked, is Garen a good character? So this is, of course, very subjective, and it depends a lot on who's playing Garen, you know, if they're good at Garen, but you've probably heard this before, and it's that Garen is a situational pick. He's strong against characters who are forced to come into melee range to either harass or to farm or something like that, like Nasus, because you could just run up to them, silence them, spin on them, and use your shield to keep yourself from taking damage in return. So you could deal damage basically for free because, oh boy, this is the part I was talking about earlier. Yeah, look at this. Oh, I didn't make it. Yeah, that was bad. 4v1, pretty hard stuff. Alright, especially when you fail flash and you don't use your shield. Anyway, if they're forced to come into melee range to farm, then you could just combo them and deal a lot of damage to them without taking much in return. And you don't lose mana or anything because he doesn't have any mana or anything like that. He casts all his abilities for free. Additionally, if the champion you're going up against is someone who has to chain abilities together, like Riven, your silencer will really interrupt them. And Riven, I'm not saying you're guaranteed to beat Riven. Riven can beat Garen, but in general, Garen does beat Riven. But again, he can be countered very easily by anyone with ranged harass or a decent slow, because his only gap closer is a little temporary speed boost on his Q. So if you go up against someone again like Swain or Yorick, you're going to lose the lane. Even people like Teemo or Nidalee with just heavy ranged harass are going to be able to beat you. So you have to be careful when you pick him. And then we have Ham Sandwich 011, who asked me 4 months ago, is Anivia worth getting? I don't want to buy a bad character. Well, it was 4 months ago, so maybe you've already bought her or not. But Anivia, I would say, is a good character. I would say that she is worth getting. She is very strong in lane. Again, just like all other champions, she has people that beat her and people that she beats. But the thing about her is she has really good wave clearing ability with her Q and her ultimate. And additionally, her wall is just so great, so much utility. By end game, she's probably one of the best mages in the game, just because if you could wall off someone or wall off half their team, especially if they're like trying to do Baron or you're fighting in the jungle, you're guaranteed to win that fight. I mean, if you're basically forcing it to be like a 1v5 or 2v5 for a couple of people on their team because you caught them, you're going to come out so far ahead in that fight. So Anivia is a good character. You have to be able to, you have to play her a lot. You have to kind of master her because you have to be able to land her Q, her stun, reliably. Other than that, she has good nuke, she has AoE, she has the utility from her wall. So as long as you know when to pick her, which is against people that basically have lower mobility so that you could land your Q, or against people who have kind of like not as much harass, because she doesn't really have a good way of trading in lane. If she lands a Q, then she could trade back with someone, but other than that, until she hits level 6, she's kind of a weak laner. You don't have to be too worried about ganks as long as you're near your tower, because you do have, you know, the 2 lives from your egg. So yeah, Anivia is a good character. I would recommend picking her up if she looks interesting to you, because if you learn her and are able to land her skill shot, then you're going to do pretty well. And finally here we have Carissa1 is something like that. Asked me where some of the other guides are, like team fights and mechanics. So first of all, for mechanics, it's kind of hard to make a guide to teach people, you know, different mechanics like last hitting and when to ward, where to place wards, when to go back, when to gank, when to be building different items, those type of mechanics that are kind of just part of like game sense that you develop as you play more. If you're having problems last hitting, I'd recommend just choosing a character that you want to get better at and then going in a custom game and just practice last hitting for 10 minutes. I don't know what else to say. It's hard to teach mechanics through a guide. I guess a video is probably your best bet though at learning mechanics, so I'll try to make a guide. Yeah, teaching some of that stuff. And then for teamfight, yeah, that's a really hard one to make a guide for actually, as I realized, like I set about trying to make one, and then I developed that, or I guess I discovered that it's hard to make a guide on how to teamfight, because teamfighting changes based on each team comp, depending on, you know, what type of team you're running, whether it's like an AoE team or a poke team, and again based on you know, which champions are on each team. So it's hard to make one guide, just general, you know, team fighting. But if you watch, you know, my videos and guides, commentaries, whatever it is that I do in the future, you'll see plenty of examples of team fights, I'm sure. And maybe eventually I will make some sort of team fight guide, but in general, yes, I will be making more videos, so you could count on that at least. So that's all I have for this video. I will be doing more like this as soon as I have enough questions basically to make a video. I only need 5 or 6 questions, well maybe a bit more, maybe like 10 questions and I'll make a video. So go ahead and post in the comments below or anything like that, and I'll see you guys soon.